senior managers, and I said, what do you need? They said, build us a daycare center, and so I did. And now they have, when you go to Marquette Electronics, that's the first place visitors ask to see. It's state-of-the-art, it's really great. There's a woman in Texas who runs a place called Ryan Financials. She too, one of their best employees, was about to leave, and they said, tell me why. And she said, because I want to have a baby, and I don't see how I could possibly do it working in a place that has the kind of culture that exists here. And they worked out a series, not just of leave policies, but a policy they call unplugged time, that when you're off, and they're literally training their staff how to enjoy unplugged time. Then there are people who come to it from what I call never again. They themselves have worked in corporate America in jobs that were hideous and unflexible and said, I'm going to set up my own business, and when I run it, I'm going to make it flexible, not just for me, but for all of my staff. There are people who come to it because they have what I call, we need to talk. Their workers have come to them and said, you have a problem and we'd like to help you solve it. And they've been smart enough to listen. There are people who do it because they say, what if this were my daughter? And often it's because they have a daughter or a daughter-in-law who has suddenly run up against inflexibility some other place where she's working. And they begin to realize that there's probably a lot of daughters who work here, and we haven't really taken it into account. One of my favorite stories is DuPont was one of the first national companies that really tried to implement family-friendly policies. And the woman who did that, Faith Wall, she went around to get all the senior managers familiar with the policies. She wasn't really asking their permission. She wanted them to be part of implementation. And a senior finance executive, she showed the demographic that the majority of people at DuPont are part of two-earner couples, and they needed to have more time to take care of their family responsibilities as well. He said, I don't believe you. She said, what are you talking about? These are statistics. You work with numbers all the day. What do you mean? He said, no one in my family, no one in my neighborhood, no one in my church, no one in my circle of friends has a wife who works outside the home. How could it be true that the majority of our employees do? If you think that your world is the world and you happen to be the decision maker, that can be a problem. But fortunately, there were other far more far-sighted people who understood that it took more and who made this happen. And then I think there are people who come to it just because they say, this is what good business looks like. This is my values, this is what I have. And I love the thing you just said about life doesn't end here. My values don't end at the workplace door. I'm going to implement the way I want to live in general. So that's really great. And we have a huge body of research now that confirms that this is the best way to run a business, that it is good for the bottom line. A lot of people have forgotten that there's a cost to turnover. When you say that you have no turnover, that equals a lot of money. When you calculate the ads, the screening time, particularly those of you who have these wonderful hiring questions, and then the hiring process, and then the getting up to speed time. Not one of us is as productive on day 1 as we are on day 365. All of that costs money, and you're smart enough to have taken that into account. Men as well as women are more and more clamoring for this. Even people who aren't parents have parents and are clamoring for this. And people also want to go hike the mountains or paint the mountains or just look at the mountains. I appreciate so much that you say know where people are coming from, because it can be all of these reasons. Women will disproportionately benefit from this, but it's not a favor to women to do it. It's a better way to run a business. That's the good news. The bad news is that not everybody's doing it. And people will ask me, they'll say, well, if it really is good for business, then why doesn't everybody just do it anyway? I think there are 3 key reasons. One of them is I think a lot of people are so busy running their business that they don't really have time to think about what's the best way to do that. Your examples can be really illuminating to them. Just hearing about this and thinking, oh, there may be another way of doing it. A second thing is that a lot of people make assumptions. It's going to be too expensive, it's hard to manage. So once again, breaking it down for them and helping them to see not only they have nothing to worry about, but they have so much to gain. This will really help. I did a report that the Sloan Foundation funded on quality part-time options in Wisconsin. And I found lots of great examples. And then I got 3 phone calls from 3 of the summaries, the places I had summarized. One of them said it was 2 division heads at a hospital. I really liked that. I wanted to have an example where you could do this also at the top. And the person who called me said, you know, we have other division heads. We don't want them to get ideas. I got a call from someone where the collective bargaining unit had bargained flexible work arrangements. And she said, we have 2 other collective bargaining units. We don't want them to get ideas. And then I got a call from someone, they had just bought the company I had summarized, and they said, we haven't decided yet whether we're going to keep this, and we don't want it written down somewhere in case we decide to get rid of some of these programs. And I thought, what a mistake. Of course we want other people to get ideas. That's the whole point. That we're not doing this just as a perk for one person under the table, but as a structural way to redesign work. So, the third reason that some people don't do it, unfortunately, what I think we've learned from Enron and BP and a lot of other examples, is that sometimes the people running the show only care really about their own short-term profits, not even about the well-being of the company or the people who work there. And that's why, in addition to highlighting and showcasing the examples that you all do, we also need to create a floor that just says this is a certain decent way to run a country. We have to guarantee access to the basics, at least for everyone. So what I want to urge you, there are a lot of tools. The media is here. I hope you'll tell this story, and that all of you will find other ways to tell this story, so that people will learn from you that this is a smart and good thing to do, and that it will help them in all the things that, all the measures that ought to count. I hope you will also help speak out for the need to access to this basic and support efforts to create some public policies that will do it. And above all, I applaud you and all the people that are fortunate enough to work for you. I thank you so much for demonstrating that not only the sky won't fall, but the sky will go higher as a result of the kind of workplaces that you're creating. Thank you all so much.